Morning, everyone, and welcome to our Heavenly Parent Holy Community Oceania Morning Hundoke, together with Reverend Gregory Stone on this Saturday, the 18th of July 2026, or the 5th of June in the 14th year of Chong. So thank you, everyone, for coming, and let's begin with a bow to our true parents of heaven, earth, and humankind. Chanji Champuninge. Kyombe. Haro. And let's recite our family pledge, both in Korean and English.
가존맨세 3. 전국 주인, 우리 가족은 참 사랑을 중심하고 4대 심정권과 3대 왕권과 판조권을 완성할 것을 맹세하나이다.
Family pledge number 3. Our family, the owner of Chong, pledges to perfect the 4 great realms of heart, the 3 great kingships, and the realm of the royal family by centering on true love. And I'd like to share Mother's prayer, the Show John Cosmic Blessing Ceremony prayer given on the 1st of February 2020. Heavenly Parent, you have endured and waited so long. As there are now blessed couples that have been inducted as Chombo, it means there are blessed families that have completed the Chombo requirements whom you can embrace and govern directly. As true parents, we offer you our deepest gratitude and all glory for your divine protection that will allow the birth of many more blessed families that can stand strong and show an example in front of their nation and world as Chong Il-guk citizens. Heavenly Parent, through this holy wine ceremony, conducted in unity with true parents, your children who have fulfilled their responsibilities as blessed families will be able to join the ranks of filial children and loyal patriots. Children you can be proud of and embrace both on earth and in the eternal spiritual realm beyond. Thank you for permitting and giving your children this opportunity. Heavenly Parent, thank you for opening the way that will allow your children to move beyond their family and tribe and to advance to the world. They are the Chong-il-guk Chombo citizens. Heavenly Parent, please remember your children of whom you are proud. May you guide and protect all the blessed families inducted as Chombo so that they may all advance toward and soon bring about the day when you can realize throughout the world your dream and hope, which you have yearned to realize for so long. This will be the day on which you can say everything has been accomplished. It is all fulfilled. Thank you. I pray and proclaim all these things in true parents' name, Arju. And before we welcome up Reverend Stone, I'd like to share a praise song. Please.
돌아섰지만 for the lost children so that they could return. Let us offer this praise.
제가 경례 바로
Thank you, and let's welcome up Reverend Stone as he shares this morning. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming along this morning. Today I want to read the first part of 3 parts, actually, of a pretty long speech, but a very beautiful and significant and important speech. I'll just read the introduction. True Mother and our unification movement situation today. In Adam's family, Cain struck and killed Abel, who was closer to God. Through Heavenly Parents' history of restoration, the prophets were killed and persecuted by the fallen Cain-like world. Jesus was crucified, accused of being a criminal, though he was innocent and wholly righteous before God. 2,000 years of Christian history advanced through the blood of the martyrs. And now True Mother is directly targeted and attacked, though she's innocent and blameless before God. Though it was shocking and deeply distressing for us to see this, This is not a surprising situation given the way that God's providence has had to advance through human history. The need to understand clearly why True Mother and the unification movement are in the position of persecution right now. So this speech really is Father's beautiful explanation about this situation, and I think something we can all learn from on a deeper level. And the speech is called Total Indemnity. Some of you may have seen it. I think it's a beautiful, monumental kind of a speech from Father. This is the first part. It's found in God's Will in the World, chapter 35. And it was given April the 3rd, 1983 in Korea. Today, let me speak about total indemnity. Total indemnity involves religion, history, and the human race in general. It includes not only the physical world, but the spirit world as well. God's original ideal for the world, it was simple. He envisaged a world which would be completed when Adam, Eve, God, and the angelic world became totally one. The ideal came from God and was supposed to be passed on to our first ancestors as the true parents of all humanity. Starting from that original point, the ideal should have extended horizontally to the entire world to form a totally united universe. At the center of everything is God's love. God needs love, man needs love, the angelic world also needs love. If the world had been centered upon God's love from the beginning, it would have not only an ideal beginning, but the direction and the final result would have also been ideal. God, man, and the angelic world would have formed one perfect world, freely communicating with each other, centering upon God's love. Accordingly, man becomes perfect not by being rich or by acquiring secular power or knowledge, but by love. This love is not secularized love, as in the fallen world, but original love. Everything is completed and perfected by this love. We have 5 senses that enable us to see, hear, smell, feel, and touch and taste. These would have been used centering upon perfect love, and eyes, ears, nose, hands, and mouth, each with their senses, would have all become perfected by centering on love. To experience things with our 5 senses centering on love is an exquisite state. It is like a state of intoxication, only with love. You feel intoxicated by the environment, experiencing a reciprocal relationship with every other being. One never feels alone. Every being reaches to eternity, and each being expresses itself in a unique way. The intense beauty of the ideal world will be found through the reciprocal relationships developed among all the things of creation. The power of true love can be extended to infinity, and at the same time can be condensed into one infinitesimal speck. This is heavenly love. Therefore, if we look through the eyes of love, everything has value. In a small thing of value is condensed, and in a big thing, it is enlarged. God wanted to create such an ideal world of love. He wanted to be in the position of ruling everything by making love the center of all things. Love is the realm through which God can control the universe beyond time and space. Accordingly, to be in control of the universe, God himself absolutely needs this love. By thinking in this way, we can see that no being has value without true love. God's ideal was lost by the fall. How did mankind fall? Through love. The beginning point of love is not the eyes or the mouth, but the sexual parts of man and woman. The connecting point of love is the place where all the sensations come together. The real standard of love was lost at this point, so the male and female relationship was the cause of all the problems of the entire universe. Because of this, everything has to be restored and recreated. How can we do this? One major result of the fall is that we came under two lords or two subjects. If we had only one subject and one lord, it would not be such a problem to restore everything and return to the original state. If God were still the only subject, every creature would become harmonized with him, and there would be nothing to oppose such harmony. But there is another subject whose direction is totally opposite to God's. That being took the subject position by rejecting God. As a result of the fall, the opposing power of love that pulls man away from God became much stronger than the power that leads man back to his original source. Thus, the power of love came to be divided into two opposing camps of internal and external. Satan is connected to the world of love centering upon external power, and God is connected to the love centering on internal power. So two subjects came to stand over one object, man. Satan became the external subject, while God became the internal subject. Each of them is in a plus position, internal or external. Therefore, they repel each other. This is manifested in the struggle between the physical needs and the conscience of fallen man. They were supposed to be united, but they repelled each other. Man is pulled in two different directions, as if he had two repelled bodies. Thus, man became a being of lost direction. Sometimes he drifted to the external side, sometimes to the internal side. Since man fluctuates, everything around him is affected. Adam and Eve became such a man and woman. And, the children that they bore also inherited such a nature. If there are 10 people, they have 10 different directions. They are scattered. The world became a world of confusion as the consequence of the fall. Why Satan must be denied? Where is the world of God's original ideal? We have to search for the original ideal and rearrange the fallen world. This is not easy. To do this, Adam has to deny himself and Eve has to deny herself. If there are 10 members of a family and all 10 of them try to make unity by asserting themselves, unity is impossible. If there are 10 members of a family, all 10 must deny themselves. Therefore, before anything else, God must ask for self-denial in the fallen human world. Before he seeks for the ideal, he must seek the denial of the fall. Man has no foundation to assert himself. This is God's viewpoint. Then, what is the order of such denial? It is from external to the internal. In the fallen realm, there is the external world of nation, race, and clan, as well as family. Also, there is the couple, man and woman, together. We must deny ourselves beginning from the outside, from the external side. The point we finally arrive at is the denial of our own body and our thinking. We cannot but go this far. We live in a fallen world. So to seek God's will, to seek the point of self-affirmation on earth, we must deny the fallen world completely. The new starting point begins only after settling this standard. This is logical. Why do we need the indemnity taught by the unification movement? We must know the reason clearly. None of you in the unification movement understands clearly the meaning of individual indemnity, family indemnity, clan, race, national indemnity. Why do we have to do such a thing? This is a serious matter. The Father is saying we are in the unification movement, we don't understand, the meaning. So he's explaining this more deeply. For God to make a new start, he must clean up everything. There must be no other subject being, no Satan. God must be the absolute, the only subject. God cannot set the new starting point unless Satan's position is completely removed. For man to deny himself is not that much of a problem. The problem is to deny Satan, who controls man. Accordingly, after man completely denies himself, God has to set the standard that completely denies Satan. Otherwise, there still remain two subjects. Even if man denies himself, still Satan remains. If an alien subject who is centered upon the false love remains in the presence of God and the universe, there are two standards, and the starting step for perfection cannot be made. How can we deny Satan? This is an absolutely necessary condition in order to make a new starting point on the earth for God and humanity. We must see the denial of the false God. God himself can stand as the subject only when he stands on the foundation of that denial and is able to take his position as a subject of love. Do you understand? Condition of absolute denial. Then how is this condition made? The fall began with one individual, Adam. Since the individual is the center of the whole, in order to restore this fallen world, we must move forward step by step. It cannot be done all at once. The problem of sin has expanded through 8 stages, from the individual, family, clan, race or people, nation, world, cosmos, and God. Man who is seeking for the ideal world cannot find his way back to God, the original subject of love, unless he resolves these problems. If one stage is reached, man has control below that level, but he cannot reach the ideal world beyond that level or completely unite with the absolute God. If an individual reaches a certain stage, people in the spirit world who have reached a corresponding level of growth can assist him, and he can communicate with them. However, it's difficult for him to communicate with the original God. How can the environment be enlarged so that an individual can communicate with God? This point is the worry of God himself, as well as the concern of man who is in the fallen sphere. These two worries are made more difficult by fallen man himself. Fallen man is dominated by the archangel. It is absolutely impossible to change this by the process of affirmation, but only through denial. So we have to go up all those 8 stages, what Father is saying. It takes it's a journey up through 8 stages back to God. Then, just 1 second. Then, what is restoration through indemnity? Can't see this. I'm sorry. One who denies, who desires to reach the absolute unique subject must fulfill the condition of absolute denial in relation to everything in one's environment. For this, absolute denial is required. Then, at what place does restoration through indemnity become fulfilled? Even one iota of a condition for self-affirmation cannot remain. It must be completely in the realm of denial. The condition of indemnity is paid by fulfilling the condition of absolute denial. When this standard is fulfilled in all 8 stages, from the individual, family, clan, and so on, one can reach the ideal world at the consummation of human history. You must necessarily go through the process at each of the 8 stages. Otherwise, one cannot reach the ideal where he can communicate with God. God is working out the reality of the fallen world, trying to create one model first, rather than working to restore the whole. To reproduce on a large scale, we create the pattern first. On the individual level, we create the pattern for the individual. Then we should create the pattern, the family pattern, for the family level. From the clan, society to nation, we should think in the same way. According to the principle of creation, we must go through the 3 stages of formation, growth, and perfection through human history. In order to create the pattern for the individual, we must create the environment to set the reciprocal standard of love. Center of this reciprocal realm is man, and the center of man is love. Man must first indemnify himself on the individual level. To set the standard for the individual is not easy. Throughout history, up until now, why have women been excluded from the full participation in religious world? So far, the dispensation of the God of love was carried out centered upon men, and women were largely excluded. Why is this so? To create the model of the perfect individual, the pattern of the creation was this, that first Adam was created and afterwards Eve. This was the pattern. But the model for perfection is not complete by man alone. The angelic world participated with God in the creation of the original pattern of man centered upon heart. Therefore, God is the center of heart and the center of the spirit world. Man can stand in the position of model only when he can digest and the entire sphere of all things and be absorbed together with God. The attitude of the life of a truly religious person is one in which he is completely absorbed. It is perfect obedience. Therefore, he cannot assert his will or his opinion above God's. He must follow God's will absolutely. It is the sphere of perfection, of perfect self-denial, but also he must be completely absorbed by God. If man claims his subjectivity, he takes a plus position before God, which repels God. This leaves a person within the sphere of the subject, which is opposed to God, who is Satan. That means he becomes Satan's possession. Accordingly, he can never reach the ideal sphere of God. At this point, in the religious world, absolute obedience is necessary. European members must understand this point clearly. Why is obedience needed? To follow your own thinking leads you to stand in the position of having a second subject. Second subject is Satan. So you become Satan's object. If you insist on your own thinking as your foundation, it sets the condition for Satan to dominate you. God and Satan are in opposing camps, struggling for dominion over the fallen human world. The original purpose of human existence, as well as the original purpose of the archangel, is for the sake of the perfection of the ideal. Satan knows this as well. The sphere of denial through persecution. God originally created us with the ideal of perfection as his goal. Satan knows this, and he does not deny it. To establish the complete condition that will enable us to reach the ideal perfection is not easy. It requires the state of absolute self-denial. We cannot do this if we insist on our own viewpoint. Looking at the world, where can we find an attitude of self-denial? It's difficult to find it in the Western mentality, which is characterized by the love of freedom. The ultimate result of such freedom is that only the self remains. Husbands and wives live together, but both claim their own ways. In that case, there are two claims for freedom. If there are 4 people together, they have 4 individual demands. If there are 10 people, there are claims of 10 people for their freedom. In the end, they go their own way and become isolated and scattered. There can be no unity within families or nations. Although a person strives to enjoy his original nature through freedom, in reality he loses everything and falls to the depths of despair. Finding that he cannot satisfy his individual desires and ideals, he gives up on himself. This is the reality for many in the free world today, particularly in America, but despair is not part of God's will. In such a world, there is no standard of perfection which God desires. For this reason, Oriental thinking rather than Western holds the possibility for God. Within Oriental thinking, there is the principle of absolute attendance to the parents, and at the same time, the ideal of following one's elder brothers and sisters. When this idea of attendance is expanded, it can reach to the clan leader, the society leader, and the representative of the nation. Thus, we can gain the foundation based on the perfect system of attendance. Otherwise, we can never have a family, clan, society, nation, or world that God desires. You must understand this clearly. Then how can God create this kind of an environment? He cannot do it by saying, you religious people must achieve self-denial all by yourselves. No, he cannot do it that way. The standard of self-denial must be created within the reciprocal relationships. If you are pushed into the position of being denied by somebody else, it is the same as self-denial. Since we cannot create the sphere of denial by ourselves, God himself creates it. Therefore, a religious person will be opposed by everybody. This is the deeper meaning of persecution. When one believes in God and in religion, often those who are closest to him, such as his parents or loved ones, will oppose him. In such a case, Satan, as the second subject, is attacking the first subject, God. When someone strikes a righteous person unjustly, it sets a condition that must be repaid. Because of this repayment, the development of religion is secured. Do you understand why persecution occurs? Within the sphere of religion, God must enlarge the practice of self-denial from the individual level to the family, clan, society, nation, and world. People cannot do this by themselves. In restoration through indemnity, a person tends to think that the standard of individual self-denial is enough, but that is not true. The standard of individual indemnity must be directed to the indemnity on the world level. That foundation of self-denial must be created. Man himself has not realized this, but God and Satan know it. People do not know the full standard of denial. Therefore, Satan, who does understand it, attacks man to prevent any denial of the individual that is directed to the world level. Religions developed in the course of history until now precisely because they practiced self-denial and received persecution. This was so, although nobody knew the reason why. Now I am telling you the reason. Since one cannot practice self-denial alone, God allows Satan himself to deny man instead. And if man gains victory in the realm of denial, then he can claim victory over Satan. He can belong to the subject, to the true subject, namely God. As a result of persecution or absolute self-denial in front of God, man can enter the sphere of reciprocal relationship with God. Thus man can intervene for him. Thus God can intervene for him. This is why religion has developed the most through persecution. So also just comment here, as Father said earlier, this level of denial to essentially deny Satan on that level has to be then advanced to the next level. So from the individual to the family going up. So now we see persecution of our true parents, our true mother directly, by the nation of Korea, and also the whole movement by the two nations, the father and mother nation of Korea and Japan. So this means, as it says here, if man gains victory in the realm of denial, then he can claim victory over Satan. So the level we're working on now is definitely the national and even world level. So this is why this persecution is happening here, so we have a chance to go on to higher level. So the whole movement, and true parents and true mother, the whole movement can move on to a world level through this denial in the form of persecution. Now this is really what Father's explaining as I understand it. For this reason, a person cannot find religious perfection by leaving this world and going up to the mountains to meditate. One can achieve perfection only by standing in the midst of the world and taking on all the persecution from Satan. But in order to achieve oneness with God, a person must overcome Satan's attacks. He cannot be crushed in the persecution. He cannot be crushed in the persecution. Accordingly, God has tried to work through many people throughout history, yet had to give them up in the end. God may have used some people in his dispensation for decades or even centuries, yet in the end, they had to stand in the sphere of persecution. If someone gains individual victory over persecution, the individual victory can remain. Yet if he cannot go over the sphere of family persecution, he will be crushed. In that case, God must find another with whom to proceed on his dispensation, in his dispensation. If someone is crushed, there is nothing God can do for him. God is forced to find someone else. And this was the miserable course of the history of religion until now. By understanding these general things, you can also understand how to proceed with restoration through indemnity. You cannot deny yourself all alone. Accordingly, you must endure the condition of denial through persecution. Therefore, persecution is absolutely necessary in God's religious dispensation, and there is no way to go back to God without passing through the course of persecution. There is no exception to the rule. This is a pretty profound statement, isn't it? Therefore, persecution is absolutely necessary in God's religious dispensation, and there is no way to go back to God without passing through that course of persecution. There is no exception to this rule. The world's religions, such as Christianity, Buddhism, and Confucianism, have all passed through this kind of course. That is why they are standing on the level of world development. The religions themselves have not understood this reason until now. They could not explain why religious people had to go through suffering or persecution, but now you have understood this point. It is a logical conclusion that the total perfection of which I am speaking is not achieved without total indemnity. To guide everything into the perfection realm, we must go through the process of total indemnity. This is absolutely necessary in the history of religion. Therefore, it is wrong to think that one will have an easy life by following religion. Who is the Messiah? Within Christianity, there is the belief in the second coming of the Messiah. Who is the Messiah? The Messiah is the one whom God loves most. Which position is most loved by God? There are many people who are standing in front of God as representatives, for example, on the national society or some other organization. What kind of person is the Messiah? The Messiah is the first person who has the same mind of love and the same direction of love as God. The Messiah is the firstborn Son of God. Jesus was God's only Son, his only child. To be an only child means to receive the parents' total love from the beginning to the end. God is the absolute subject, and the Messiah stands in God's sphere. Their relationship is the relationship of parent and child. He is the one who is born as God's first son and receives the fullness of God's love given to the individual, the family, clan, society, nation, and the world. He is qualified to receive the love transcending all these spheres. This is the Messiah. He is God's beloved child. Now, this here can absolutely be applied to true mother. Jesus is the only begotten Son. There has to be an only begotten daughter. Absolutely. And that is mother. Jesus came on the foundation of 4,000 years of indemnity, and God had the condition through many, many different reasons of suffering to be able to bring forth into the world one person who was the only begotten Son, who was the firstborn of God, the one who could receive God's love. As it says here, mother's the same after 6,000 years of history. So this is the nature of true mother, right? And Jesus. But what can he do by himself? This is Jesus. The beloved must find his spouse, and where can he find her? He can't get her from the heavens, since man has been lost as a result of the fall on the earth. He must be recreated on the earth. What does religion do? Heaven is in the plus position, and the earth is in the minus position. People desire the Messiah who knows heaven. This human world deeply desires its proper subject of love, and this yearning is a messianic yearning. The Messiah must be welcomed on the world level, beyond the individual, clan, and even national levels. The entire world will be able to be united with a man of God's love as the absolute subject. There will be no reason to oppose him. There can be only absolute attendance. Self-centeredness cannot exist anymore. To create the environment so that one exists only for the sake of the Lord was the mission of the Old Testament and the New Testament age. The mission of both these ages was also to create an Eve, a spouse for the Messiah. Once Eve absolutely follows the Messiah and that sphere of obedience is expanded, opposition to the Messiah will diminish. In this environment, the entire world will be automatically connected to the subject of love at one point. To create such an environment on the world level was the mission of the Old Testament age and the New Testament age. Accordingly, present-day Christianity and Judaism must completely follow the Messiah. Christians and believers of Judaism who have been keeping their faith are supposed to offer everything when the Messiah comes. Their faith teaches perfect obedience to the Messiah. Yet what is the reality of today's Christians? What about Judaism today? Instead of the spirit which God desires, they are completely opposed, 180 degrees. If a religion desires only its own success on the earth and disregards the returning Messiah and blocks the victorious completion of God's dispensation, it will be a total failure. Any religion with this kind of attitude will be completely broken in the last days, as if hit by God's heavenly hammer. In this period of the last days, Christians in the world are looking for the second coming. But if we analyze the motivation of their desire, it is usually, I want to be saved. There is no concern for God's victory on the world level. They may say, I want to go to heavenly kingdom and I want my family and my country to be saved. The furthest limit is usually the country, but they must go beyond the country to the end of the world. They must enlarge their concern to the spirit world. Yet most cannot go beyond their own self, and this is a success for Satan. As long as this standard remains, God's world cannot be born. This is the last section. Let's check the time. Whoa, okay. What is the unification movement? Now we must begin a new movement on the earth which divides the world into two sides. We must complete God's will for the perfection of the world and enlarge it to the entire cosmos. If a religious movement with this ideal doesn't appear, God's dispensation cannot be fulfilled. It would be the same as if God did not exist. Therefore, if God exists, and if he is trying to accomplish his will, such a movement must be created on the earth. This conclusion is logical. What is this movement? It is truly the unification movement. The unification movement must have the ideal and motivation which I have just mentioned. First of all, it must enlarge self-denial from the individual to the world level. When the Messiah comes, if Christianity completely follows him and perfectly unites with him, it has achieved its goal. When the Messiah comes and proclaims himself, then everybody must unite with him, but they cannot do so until he comes. Therefore, God has been prolonging his dispensation through the fallen history for hundreds of thousands of years until now. God exists, yet so does persecution. Why did God allow the early Christians to be persecuted for 400 years in ancient Rome? Reviewing the principle, we know that persecution continued until the standard which was applicable throughout the world appeared. Accordingly, Christianity came to this level after 400 years. Centering upon the foundation laid by Christianity, the unification church appeared on the earth after World War II. Christianity must listen to the word of the Messiah viewed from the total perspective of God's dispensation, whether or not they will listen to him is a matter of life or death for Christians. If one believes in the Messiah's words, he can find spiritual survival. For this purpose, one must deny oneself. One must be able to deny everything, his own past history, his own family, his own past standard of faith as well. If you can see that the Messiah is the person who he'd been looking for, as viewed through the eyeglass of biblical history, there is no problem. But for many, their eyeglasses do not fit. They are looking at things through individualistic eyeglasses. Therefore, they do not know the Messiah when they see him. The Messiah comes in the cosmic scale. Therefore, they cannot measure him by one's own scale. If you only listen or see the Messiah with your personal viewpoint, you cannot understand the contents of his message. The Messiah deals with things on the eternal level, discussing events perhaps 20 or 30 years ahead. If a small point of view predominates among Christians, when the Lord of the second advent comes, they will oppose him. If they oppose him, they will automatically fall under Satan's sphere. The Messiah is the one who is born as the substance of God's eternal love on this plane called earth. The one who leads the opposition to God is Satan. Anyone who takes the other subject's position, namely by opposing the Messiah, will become a part of Satan's sphere at once. Although there may be large numbers of people there, is still Satan's sphere. So those who suppose to create foundation for the acceptance of the Messiah, on the contrary, turned their guns on him and are now standing on the front of Satan's army. They have come to deny Christ himself. Immediately after World War II, the Christian cultural sphere in the world, centering upon the nation of America, had gained its greatest strength. There has been only one time in history when the world was completely leaning towards a religious sphere. That was the time right after World War II. A small portion went to the side of the Soviets, while the rest of the world came a part of the democratic sphere, this Christian cultural sphere, completely centering upon America. If America herself, who was the subject of the eternal world, completely followed the Messiah, what would have happened to the world? The world could have easily become God's world. But what would happen if it didn't occur? The world would again turn to the satanic sphere. As a result, they would make a total attack on the central person of God's dispensation. Okay, finished. So, sorry, just about time up now. Final slide here. Some points to reflect on. Who is the only begotten daughter of God? She is the first woman who has the same mind of love and the same direction of love as God. She is the firstborn daughter of God. Jesus was the only begotten son, God's only child. The only begotten daughter receives the fullness of God's love given to the individual, family, clan, society, nation, and world. She is qualified to receive the love transcending all these spheres. This is the only begotten daughter. She is God's beloved child, and she's under direct persecution and attack right now in Korea, of course, as we know. The only begotten daughter and the unification movement are receiving persecution now. True Father said above that the unification movement must divide the world into two sides. We must complete God's will for the perfection of the world and enlarge it to the entire cosmos. His Father's words. True Father said, the unification movement must enlarge self-denial from the individual to the world level. Thank you very much. End of part one. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Reverend Stone. Yeah, wow, that's a total indemnity speech. It really is one of those landmark speeches that really does, cover everything that we need to do, and it's a hard pill to swallow. This total indemnity being, denying ourselves, but it's the only way to return. It's the only way to go back to God. God needs love. We need love. It is because of love that the fall happened, and that's why the two subjects appeared. And the only way is to deny ourselves and everything around us so that heaven can succeed. And if it was easy to do, it would have happened right in the first family, but instead of God winning, Satan has won, and it's taken thousands of years to finally bring us to parents and bless families, and it's up to us to expand the ideal, and still, persecution takes place, and it can only end when finally, everything is restored back to our heavenly parent, and it requires us to do that. And we are doing that, and so the future will be bright, even though there has been so much suffering. God will return to being the only subject, and the internal, external will become one, because right at the very beginning, just that oneness between God, Adam and Eve, the angelic world, all things, that was God's ideal at the very beginning, where everyone is filled with love. Thank you, and look forward for part 2 and 3 to come. So thank you. Thank you, everyone. I don't know if anyone wants to make a comment or anything. Margaret, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you.
Oh, okay. Was just listening to the vice president here in America talking about the danger of communism and how radicalism is really becoming pronounced. In the speech, toward the end, a father was saying that the things the Messiah is speaking sometimes will take 20 to 30 years to be recognized. And now, if I were to add from 1974, Madison Square Garden, September 18th, your rebirthday, to now, it's already been 52 years. And just now, the vice president is talking about the danger of communism, and saying it very clearly that it's a godless ideology. So I have hope in that it's taking time, but it's finally it's catching up, that people in positions that are saying things can be are saying the same thing, and also I think it's also a good reminder that it really is our time to speak out as well. And this speaking out is really saying that the age of true parents is here, and that it will be an unfortunate situation for generations to come to not have known, especially now that true mother is still on the earth, that this is the time in which not to hide, but to be able to speak out as we reach out to other people. So anyway, it was just very hopeful for me to hear that now the current vice president, I mean, the president spoke on the 4th of July about the danger of communism. And now the vice president is actually giving actual events of this happening, and data, information. It's not just beware, it's really coming down with the crunch. So again, true parents came and spent many years of their life in America, and America has a big responsibility to really make this known. And of course, us as couples have to really not hide behind whatever, and really make ourselves available to speak the truth. Yeah, especially for mother, for people to realize that this is listening at Chonshim 1, the first part, and listening to the KCLC pastor, I really felt like, oh, I want to go to Korea and speak to Korean people, because you know, anyway, I was not satisfied with the speech, I guess, but that's just my feeling. Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Greg. That was great.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, it's time now for us to offer our unison prayer. So I'll just bring up that screen. That's it is. So let's pray together. Thank you. Jew, Jew, Jew. Thank you, everyone. Thank you again, Reverend Stone, for sharing, and I hope everyone has a good day and see you all again tomorrow. Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Mhm.